Hey y'all, this is Christian with Grand Slam Tennis News Today, and as some of you might know, I did a video looking at some WTA players who declined in 2022. It's only right to do the same thing with the ATP players, so without further ado, let's highlight some men who didn't excel this past season. Starting us off at number 10 is Lloyd Harris. 2021 was the year Lloyd Harris transformed from journeyman to consistent top threat. His first true breakout came at the Dubai 500, where he upset world number 4 Dominic Thiem en route to the biggest final of his career. He ultimately claimed an even bigger scalp than that, upending Rafael Nadal at the City Open. He backed up that win with an incredible run to the US Open quarterfinals, where he upset Karen Khachanov, Denis Shapovalov, and Riley Opelka. These results ultimately propelled him to a career high ranking of 31, which is where he ended the season. This year's Australian Open was the first time Harris was seeded at a major. This unfortunately didn't make a positive difference for him, as the South African opened the season with 5 straight losses. He had one somewhat standout result when he defeated Denis Shapovalov en route to the Miami Open 4th round, but after that tournament, Harris was 2-6 on the tour. Following a first round exit at Roland Garros, Harris called it curtains, saying that he'd be undergoing wrist surgery after experiencing months of pain. Harris was therefore unable to defend his points from the US Open and now sits at 237th in the world. This decline is pretty major in terms of rankings, but I put Lloyd at number 10 because the wrist injury shut down practically half of his season. The South African has a huge game, as his big serve and forehand have been known to give opponents fits. He is set to play at the upcoming Australian Open, so hopefully 2023 would be a solid rebuilding year for him. American John Isner occupies the 9th spot on this list. Now, John didn't necessarily fall off in 2022 like many other players on this list, but this season simply wasn't as successful as the last, to say the least. Despite skipping the 2021 Australian Open, Isner had a solid year last year, making some headway at the 1000 level tournaments. Most notably, he reached the Toronto semifinals. Even though he failed to advance past the 3rd round at a major, Isner finished ranked inside the top 25 for the 11th consecutive year. The big serving giant had a difficult start to the 2022 season, losing a couple of tough matches in the Australian Open lead-up events before losing to compatriot Maxime Cressy in 5 sets at the Aussie Open. Isner did do a bit better at the majors, this time making 2 slam 3rd rounds. However, he'll surely be disappointed that he did not clean up at the smaller US Open Series events, which is where a bulk of his points typically come from. This was actually one of the rare seasons where Isner didn't take home one of those 250s. He did reach the finals of Houston, but his best tournament was probably his quarterfinal run at the Cincinnati Open, where he beat Hubie Hurkacz for his lone top 10 win of the season. The informed Isner had a solid shot at going deep at the US Open, but unfortunately suffered a wrist injury, which forced him to forfeit his 2nd round match. Cincinnati was honestly a saving grace for John, as around that time he was ranked 50th, his lowest standing since 2009. Isner completed the year 41st, his lowest finish in over a decade. As he nears the end of his career, John has made a conscious effort to limit the number of tournaments he plays in, but I think at this point he might need to play a few more if he wants to at least keep a seeding at the majors and 1000 events. Taking the 8th spot is Hungarian Marton Fucsovics. The past few seasons, Marton has been a bit of a giant slayer in the slams, beating the likes of Shapovalov, Dimitrov, Medvedev, and Sinner between 2020 and 2021 alone. 2022 practically saw none of that, as he failed to make it past the 2nd round at any of the 4 slams, with his biggest win on the major stage being against Maxime Cressy at the Open. In 2021, the Hungarian had a few notable standout results, first storming through to the Rotterdam 500 finals as a qualifier. Probably his biggest achievement was reaching the Wimbledon quarterfinals, where he beat Jannik Sinner, Diego Schwartzman, and Andrei Rublev in the process. Fucsovics is very dangerous when on, as his excellent shot-making abilities make him a tough out for many of the world's top players. The Hungarian just wasn't able to conjure up those moments of brilliance frequently enough to gain any notable results this season. I also think he simply did not have as many opportunities to go deeper at the smaller level tournaments because his draws were relatively difficult. In 2021, Marton was 26-24 and finished the year 40th. This time, however, he finishes 16-19 with a ranking of 87. Marton actually fell outside the top 100 during the season, but managed to win a challenger title to up his ranking a bit more. Maybe the confidence from the challenger's success will translate on the higher ranks this upcoming year. At number 7 is Aussie James Duckworth. James is a bona fide journeyman through and through, as he's hovered around the top 150 for a majority of his 10-year career. However, 2021 was truly a breakout year for Duckworth, who racked up a lot of good high-quality wins, including victories over David Goffin, Yannick Sinner, and Taylor Fritz. One of the Aussie's standout moments was when he made his first tour-level final in North Sultan. James also had success on the 1000 level, making the round of 16 at Montreal before doing one better at the Paris Indoors, where he reached his first Masters quarterfinal. These excellent results propelled him to a career-high ranking of 46 towards the beginning of 2022, but the 30-year-old was unable to enjoy his top 50 debut for long after he was forced to miss 4 months of action due to hip surgery. Things were pretty rough for the Australian once he returned back to the tour, as he didn't earn his first main draw tour victory until July. There he reached the Newport 250 quarterfinals and then later on made another quarter in San Diego. That was pretty much it as far as notable tour level results go, as Duckworth finished his season on the Challenger circuit, managing to make a final and a few semifinals. Like with Harris, I'm giving Duckworth a bit of a break because of that hip injury, but I know that it must be rough to go from having your best ever season on tour to one of your worst. Hopefully this upcoming Aussie summer swing will fare better for Duckworth so he can rebuild that ranking. At number 6, which might be a surprise, is Daniil Medvedev. Daniil actually started the year very well and was on the cusp of winning the 2022 Australian Open, leading Rafael Nadal 2 sets to love and having 3 break points at 3-2. Unfortunately, Medvedev was unable to come on top of that one, losing a heartbreaking 5-hour final that likely changed the course of its entire season. Daniil did reach world number 1 afterwards, but was still dealing with the after effects of that rough Aussie Open loss. Medvedev had a subpar sunshine double, citing physical concerns after his Miami Open defeat to Hubie Hurkacz. Shortly afterwards, Medvedev underwent a procedure after playing with a hernia, which forced him out of competition for nearly 2 months. Despite having very little clay match prep and clay being his least favorite surface, Medvedev managed to reach the second week at Roland Garros before being clobbered by Marin Cilic in the round of 16. The grass swing fared a little bit better for Medvedev, who reached the finals in both Hertogenbosch and Halle. However, Daniil lost both championship matches and in straight sets, extending his finals losing streak to 5 in a row. Medvedev was forced to skip Wimbledon due to the Russian ban, but finally got the monkey off his back when he returned to the tour, winning his first title of 2022 in Los Cabos. With Novak Djokovic out, Daniil Medvedev was expected to dominate once again during the US Open Series, but Nick Kyrgios has a little something to say about that, the Aussie beating him at both Montreal and the US Open. The indoor season was a bit bizarre for the former world number 1, who at times played excellent, winning Vienna and nearly beating Djokovic to win Astana. However, he also suffered some surprise first round exits to Stan Wawrinka and Alex de Minaur. The Tour and ATP finals was absolutely agonizing for the 2020 champion, as he lost all 3 of his round robin matches 7-6 in the third. Daniil's Turin terrors perfectly summed up his struggles in 2022, as he lost frequently to top 10 opponents and in deciding sets. Medvedev has lost his last 8 matches against top 10 players, 6 of those losses ending in a decider. His only 3 wins against top 10 opposition were at the beginning of the year in Australia. This isn't the Medvedev that we've been accustomed to as of late, as the Russian has a strong reputation of being clutch and bringing his best tennis against the very best. Daniil attributes his relatively lackluster showings to a mere drop in play, rather than a mental block of him playing tough for opposition and rising to world number 1. Looking forward to 2023, Daniil hopes to improve against the top players and challenge for that top spot once more. Kicking off our top 5 is Italian Matteo Berrettini. 2021 was a year full of firsts for Berrettini, who reached his first Masters final in Madrid, and then he won his first 500 level in Queens before reaching his maiden major final at Wimbledon. Berrettini also became the first Italian man to make the 4th round at each major, reaching 3 slam quarters that year, falling to Djokovic every time. 2022 looked to be the start of something big for Berrettini, who reached his first Australian Open semifinals, losing to eventual champion Rafael Nadal. Matteo really could not build upon that momentum, as soon after he dealt with a hand injury, which he underwent a procedure for in March. This forced him to miss the entire clay season, but the Boss ambassador came came back like he never left, winning back-to-back titles in Stuttgart and Queens. Unfortunately, the bad luck played the Italian once more as a COVID contraction prevented Berrettini from competing at Wimbledon. He still managed to continue his major success, reaching the US Open quarterfinals once more. Berrettini didn't have much of a fall/winter season, playing a few Davis Cup matches and finishing runner-up at the Naples 250 before calling it quits after suffering a foot injury. I think Berrettini still had a solid season, of course, but he'll be disappointed to not build upon his remarkable efforts from 2021. A lot of his issues were out of his control, from the hand and foot injuries to the positive COVID case. Not playing those ample matches likely impacted Berrettini's form, which made him more susceptible to losing to lower ranked players. The Italian actually never even beat a player ranked inside the top 15. Matteo currently sits at 16 in the world, his lowest ranking in over 3 years. Some of this is also due to the fact that his Wimbledon runner-up points from last year came off due to the ban, though he would have lost them regardless due to his positive COVID case. The fourth player here is Argentine Federico Delbonis. The 32-year-old is notoriously a clay court specialist, with practically all of his biggest achievements coming on the dirt. 2021 was no different, as Federico made 3 clay semifinals, with the best being at the Hamburg 500. The 2021 spring clay season was arguably some of Delbonis' best tennis, as he successfully qualified for all 3 1000s, making the 3rd round in Monte Carlo, 4th round in Paris, and quarters in Rome for his first 1000 level last 8 appearance. He finished pretty strong, reaching the 4th round at Roland Garros for his best ever showing at a major. These results propelled him back inside the top 50. In all honesty, Delbonis' decline started after Hamburg, as he lost his last 10 matches of 2021. Now, when I say Delbonis is a clay specialist, there's no better way to describe him. If there's a dictionary definition of clay court specialist, you see a picture of Federico Delbonis. The Argentine knows he can only really play on clay, which is why he always schedules his seasons around these events. You think I'm being dramatic, but ATP Cup aside, Federico literally has not won a non-clay match since the 2020 Australian Open. This year though, he performed poorly on the clay as well, only winning consecutive main draw tour level matches once. This was when he made the Buenos Aires semifinals, ending Juan Martín del Potro's career in the process. Federico only won 2 tour level matches during the post-Sunshine double clay swing, compared to 15 last year. He also struggled in his 5 tour clay events post-Wimbledon, only winning 3 main draw level matches, challengers included. Delbonis ends his horrific season ranked 125th, compared to 44th at the beginning of the season. Last year he was 23-24, but this season he holds a 10-22 win-loss record. At number 3 is Serbian Dusan Lajovic. Lajovic has always been a consistent top 40 type player, and in 2021 he maintained that trend largely thanks to his run at the Australian Open, where he reached the 4th round. Soon after, he picked up a win over world number 3 Daniil Medvedev for one of his best ever career wins. Dusan honestly didn't do that much afterwards and slowly began his decline, which really became apparent this season after his points from the 2019 Monte Carlo finals finally dropped. Lajovic's best result came at Rome, where he reached the 4th round, beating Ruud in the process. But his continued decline ultimately sent him outside the top 100 for the first time in over 4 years. Dusan somewhat salvaged things at the end of the season, winning a challenger in Spain, which brought him back inside the top 100. The Serb's record this season was pretty dismal, going 11-23. The penultimate player here is Georgian Nicolas Basilashvili. In the last few seasons, Basilashvili has been a consistent figure within the top 25, always posing threats to the top players on the biggest stages. 2021 was more of the same, except the Georgian made his own mark at a big event, making his first 1000 final at Indian Wells. The Georgian also picked up titles in Doha and Munich, which helped him finish the year just outside the top 20. Basilashvili had a horrific start to the 2022 season, losing his first 6 matches. Nicolas then had his only good tournament of the year when he made the final in Doha. From then on though, the Georgian continued to struggle, only winning 2 consecutive matches once more at Wimbledon, where he reached the 3rd round. After Wembley, Nicolas only won 1 match without a retirement, finishing the year 2-9 on the regular circuit. Basilashvili is one of the best ball strikers on tour. When he's on, he's nearly unbeatable. However, when he's off, like he was most of the season, things can get pretty ugly. Nicolas fell nearly 70 spots in the rankings and held a dismal 14-24 win-loss record. He did earn a top 10 win over Andrei Rublev, but also lost to Damir Zhumer, who was ranked outside the top 150 at the time. Finally, taking the top spot is Aslan Karatsev. Karatsev was undoubtedly the ATP breakout star of 2021 after his surprise ascent to the top echelons in the early part of the season. Aslan began the year ranked 112th, but quickly rose after coming through qualifying to reach the Australian Open semifinals in his Slam debut. He followed that up with his first tour title at the Doha 500, which brought him inside the top 30. Karatsev then earned 3 more top 10 victories, including ones over Novak Djokovic and Daniil Medvedev. Towards the end of the season, Karatsev picked up his second career title in Moscow, which enabled him to make his top 20 debut. He also earned the Most Improved Player of the Year honor too. Aslan actually started 2022 very well, winning the Sydney 250. The Russian was likely tired from that run and a couple of tough early round matches at the Australian Open, which is why he fell in the third round there. After that slam, Karatsev struggled immensely, losing early in practically each and every tournament he played in. He lost 14 of his next 17 matches. Karatsev did perform better in the post-Wimbledon clay tournaments, making back-to-back quarterfinals at Bastad and Hamburg. Aslan went back to his consistent losing ways when the hardcourt season resumed, winning just 3 more main draw matches for the remainder of the year. Aslan's decline is a bit more startling because he played so well in 2021 and started the year the same. People were expecting him to establish himself as a strong top 20 presence on the tour, but Aslan found it hard to consistently maintain that high peak level of play week in and week out. Karatsev is very similar to Basilashvili in that he too has an unbelievably high peak and ceiling and can nearly beat any player at his best. However, his base normal level isn't as high, mostly due to his high-risk game style. Also like Basilashvili, Karatsev was accused of match fixing by the ITF midway through the season, according to some reports. Aslan merely said that he was unaware of the allegations. Aslan's coach Yahor Yaskik was also named a key suspect in this scandal, and he also used to coach Nicolas, by the way. Karatsev actually recently announced that he'll continue working with Yaskik in 2023, acknowledging that they made some poor choices, but is now ready to work even harder. Aslan, who reached a career high of 14 in the world back in February, now sits at 59, on the cusp of falling outside the top 100 if he does not defend his Sydney title. That's all I have for this video, and let me know whether you agree or disagree with the list in the comments below. Feel free to drop some names of players you felt declined in this season as well. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.